He was living a life in extreme poverty. Life became so miserable that it forced him to become an object of entertainment of rich people.
What's going on, 13?
But the rich men were unaware of his plan to settle every score on that eve.
What the hell was that?
Welcome back. I don't have many subscribers, but your single comment is a ray of hope to motivate me.
Shoot, you son of a bitch!
Picture this. We're in this sketchy building where money's flying everywhere. Under a weird, glowing bulb, Vince has a gun pointed at some guy's head while the guy is ready to fire back. Intense, right? As Vince holds his breath, his mind drifts back to how he got caught in this mess. Flashback to 4 days earlier in Ohio. Vince, his mom, and his sisters are stressed out. They decide to sell their house to pay off huge hospital bills. Vince's dad has been stuck in the hospital after a bad accident. Every day, Vince visits his dad before heading to his electrician job. On this particular day, he's working for a dude named Mr. Harrison, who's acting kinda shady. Harrison gets this mysterious letter, but here's the kicker. There's a cop outside snapping pictures of him. Later, Vince overhears Harrison talking about how this letter could make him a fortune. Intrigued, Vince heads home to celebrate his little sister's birthday, laughing at her wish for a pet lamb. Meanwhile, in a completely different part of the country, a guy named Jasper Baggs borrows a crazy $2 million from some bad dudes, promising to return $3 million in just 3 days. Risky move. Back to Vince. His dad's doctor drops more bad news. Another expensive surgery is needed. The money problem keeps growing. While Vince is working at Harrison's place again, he overhears Harrison telling a buddy about a job that paid him a load of cash in just 1 day. Turns out Harrison barely survived that gig last time, and it still haunts him. Things take a dark turn when Harrison accidentally overdoses and dies. After the cops do their thing, Vince is allowed to leave. But before he goes, curiosity gets the better of him. He swipes the mysterious envelope off Harrison's desk. Inside, a train ticket to New York, a post office receipt, and a lot of questions. Vince follows the instructions, picking up a package at the post office. He finds a burner phone, $500, a key, and a letter with a spider logo. The letter gives him a simple set of rules. Use the money for a New York hotel, stick to the burner phone, and wait for more instructions. Harrison's girlfriend tells the cops about the missing envelope, and they quickly figure out Vince was the one who picked it up. Detective Mullane, who's already investigating these mysterious envelopes, orders his team to tail Vince. The next day, Vince puts on his best suit and hops on a train to New York, unaware a cop is on his tail. Once he gets to the city, he checks into the hotel like the letter said. In the dead of night, his burner phone rings. Posing as Harrison, Vince gets new instructions and follows them to the letter the next day. He ends up at a store near Grand Central, opens a P.O. box using the key, and finds another envelope. This one has a train ticket, a cork with the number 13 on it, and more directions. He's told to get off the train 1 stop before its final destination in Macomb. Smart move because it gives him a head start on the cops. A cab takes Vince to the middle of nowhere, where another car pulls up. The driver, Jack, checks Vince's cork with the number 13 and takes him to a forest shack. Vince's clothes are swapped for plain ones, and the guys there even cut open his shoes to make sure he's not hiding anything. Finally, Vince is taken to a massive mansion crawling with rich folks. This is where the creepy stuff starts. Joe, Vince's patron, immediately spots that Vince isn't Harrison. Vince admits Harrison's dead, and he's just a stand-in. Joe reluctantly lets him play, knowing he can't back out now. Downstairs, it's chaos. Rich people are betting insane amounts of money. Jasper shows up and places a bet on his brother, Ronald, who he pulled out of a mental hospital just to compete. Joe puts his money on Vince, now labeled as participant number 13. The game turns out to be Russian roulette. Vince and other participants stand in a circle, each with a loaded gun. They're given 1 bullet and told to spin the barrel. The trigger can only be pulled when a special spider logo light bulb flashes. If you survive, you move on. Vince is a nervous wreck and needs help loading his gun. When the light flashes, a few guys drop dead. Vince hesitates, and security warns him to play by the rules, or else. He finally shoots, and thankfully the guy in front of him lives. After the round, Joe pulls Vince aside, telling him to toughen up. Upstairs, patrons who've lost their players start placing new bets. Jasper is all in on his brother Ronald, while another player, Patrick Jefferson, number 17, tries to bribe his way out of the competition. His patron, Jimmy, refuses, even after Jefferson reveals he was smuggled into this mansion in a box. Round 2 begins with higher stakes. This time, each gun has 2 bullets. Half the participants are wiped out. Vince somehow survives again, thanks to sheer dumb luck. The guy behind him didn't even get a chance to shoot. Things take a shocking turn when contestant number 16, who everyone thought was down for good, suddenly stands back up. But the doctor quickly checks him over and decides he's unfit to keep going, so the guards finish him off. Meanwhile, participant 11, Hans, starts losing it mentally, and his sponsor Schlondorf gives him a pep talk to calm him down. Spoiler alert, it doesn't work. On the other side, Jefferson has another heart-to-heart with his patron Jimmy, spilling more details about his shady past. He admits he got locked up for hijacking a truck, but before getting caught, he stashed the stolen cash somewhere secret. Jefferson hands Jimmy a hastily sketched map of the hiding spot, promising him half the loot if he sends the rest to Jefferson's son, who's also stuck in jail. Jimmy, seeing dollar signs, agrees. While Jasper is busy collecting more bets, he starts having flashbacks of when he checked his brother Ronald out of a mental institution. Ronald ditched his meds back then, claiming he felt great without them, but now he's clearly not doing so hot. When Jasper realizes Ronald will be aiming at Vince in the next round, Ronald flips out and hurls an ashtray at Vince, forcing Jasper to step in before things get out of hand. Round 3 kicks off, and the stress levels are through the roof. Hans has to be drugged up with morphine just to show up, and contestant number 3 needs a chair just to stand. Ronald keeps egging Vince on, even smacking him at one point, but the host steps in to break it up. This round ups the ante with 3 bullets per gun. After the shots ring out, only 5 contestants are left standing: Vince, Jefferson, Ronald, number 3, and number 9. Now it's time for the final phase, the duel. 5 balls are placed on the table, 2 black, 3 white. The sponsors of the last 5 players each pick one, and whoever grabs the black balls goes head-to-head in the final round. Jasper and Joe snag the black balls, setting up Vince to face Ronald. Jasper, confident in Ronald's experience, starts raking in bets, but Joe convinces Schlondorf to wager on Vince, offering 5-to-1 odds for a massive payout. Jefferson, meanwhile, is cleared to leave, but things get ugly fast. While he's changing, Jimmy sneaks up and tries to kill him, hoping to snag the map. Thankfully, security intervenes just in time, reminding Jimmy that survivors can't be harmed. Jefferson, now furious, mocks Jimmy for being gullible and reveals that the map he handed over was fake. The real one? He burns it on the spot before walking away for good. Back at the mansion, Ronald snaps at Jasper, accusing him of pocketing family money meant for his care. He claims Jasper only got him out of the asylum to exploit him in the competition. Tensions are at an all-time high as the final duel begins. Now we're back at the story's opening scene. Vince and Ronald face off, each with 3 bullets loaded. They aim, fire, and nothing happens. Neither drops. For the next round, another bullet gets added to their chambers. This time, Vince's luck holds and Ronald falls. Vince wins the entire competition. Jasper, devastated over losing his brother, is crushed. Schlondorf, on the other hand, celebrates his daring bet, and Vince is left grappling with the weight of what just happened. He walks away with a jaw-dropping $1.85 million, earning praise for his luck against Ronald, a seasoned player. Schlondorf and Joe congratulate him and offer a ride to the train station, which Vince fakes agreeing to. Instead, he sneaks off upstairs, slips through a window, and escapes the mansion. Jack notices he's gone, but Joe couldn't care less. Vince makes it to the train station the next morning, but trouble's brewing. The cabbie who drove him the day before spots him and tips off the cops. Vince, spotting their cars rolling in, stashes his money bag in a trash can just before getting arrested. At the station, Detective Mullane grills him about the cash, but Vince plays dumb, spinning a story about being dropped in the forest after they realized he wasn't Harrison. He even uses his busted shoes as proof of running for his life. Mullane, with no solid evidence, has no choice but to let him go. Vince rushes back to the trash can, only to find the bag gone. Panic sets in until he notices fresh garbage bags out back. Desperately tearing them open, he finally finds his money. Knowing he can't risk carrying it, he mails the cash to his family through a registered package, warning his mom to be home to collect it. After a restless night in New York, Vince picks up a lamb plushie for his sister, spending $100 on it after some haggling with the clerk. With his bag swapped for the toy, he heads home to Ohio, thinking the nightmare's finally over. But trouble isn't done with him yet. Jasper follows him onto the train, acting casual until their first stop. Then, out of nowhere, Jasper shoots Vince, steals the plushie, thinking it's stuffed with money, and runs off. As Vince takes his last breaths, he swallows the mailing receipt, ensuring his family gets the money.